Episode 47 of the Pop Culture Experience. Ooh, just knocked the Christ out of the microphone. As usual, how you all doing? How's everyone doing? Everyone good? I'm good. Went out for brekkie yesterday. Felt the need to tell you because here in Melbourne, restrictions easing. It's very exciting. Went out for brekkie. Had probably the best hash brown I've ever had. Yeah, that's a fact. That is true. Somebody could argue, was it just better because you were finally out eating? Again, maybe. That could very well be the case. Everything tastes that little bit better. The coffee was fantastic, but was that just because I was drinking it out of a, like a glass coffee cup? Maybe. Would make sense. But yeah, so back out for a bit of breakfast yesterday. Restrictions easing, businesses starting to reopen. Things are looking up here in Melbourne, so that's been exciting. What else is news? Got a little bit more Lego. Just a little gift the other day, which was a bit exciting. Yvonne, one of my good friends, sent me some little Lego just to add to my desk. Which little Batman on the Bat bike. Similar to the one from The Dark Knight, actually. That's what I quite like about this. It's similar design. It's that sort of... It's not a traditional motorbike by any stretch. It's more just two wheels with a little area to sit on in the middle. Some would say that's what a motorbike is, but you know what I mean. Like, have a look at that. For the visual viewers. Sorry if you're listening to the audio podcast. I'll try not to spend too much time on visual stuff, but yeah, and a Harley Quinn to go with it, with a little hammer. So it was nice and cute. Thanks, Yvonne, for that. Yvonne also actually drew me under the cowl of the 1989 Batman with Michael Keaton. So instead of Keaton under the cowl, me. It was a little drawing. I'll put it up on the social media, I think, and let me know. Can you see the resemblance? Because, I mean, really, the resemblance is only going to be in the jawline. But if it taught me anything, it's that... I don't know. I kind of think I could, if we lived in a world where no one was physically wanting or capable of playing Batman anymore, I could step up. Now, there also could be the argument that she enhanced my jawline to better suit the cowl. Definitely a possibility. But I'll put it up on the socials. Get you to have a look and give me your opinion. What else? I've been watching a bit. By the way, today is just going to be me. Because I was like, well, I didn't have this urge to just have someone on for the sake of having somebody on. I don't like doing that. I try and only have somebody on if I feel like it's going to add to the show. And usually I'll have, some topics in mind or something in the news that I want to talk about that I feel like I've got somebody that can add something. But today, it wasn't necessarily that there wasn't anyone that couldn't add something. There was plenty of people I could have had on, but sometimes it's just nice to just shoot the shit with myself and just sort of talk at you guys, whoever's watching and listening. And just flesh it all out. Put all my thoughts and opinions on things out there. And it's like a sounding board that, I don't have to worry about what people's opinion is coming back. I'll give it to you guys and you can let me know on the socials what you think of my takes and opinions on things. And I don't know. It's just, I don't mind doing it from time to time by myself. You could say maybe it's cathartic. Maybe. Don't forget, if you haven't got yourself a Pop Culture Experience coffee mug yet. That's what I'm drinking my coffee out of. I've still got some, and still able to order some. So I'm thinking about maybe doing a little bit more merch. Been thinking about a t-shirt or maybe like a Bell Design. Did you see? I wore it on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. I think I might have even spruiked it a little bit. Bell Design put out some nice, what are they called? Crew necks, the jumpers. That's probably my favorite type of jumper. I mean, it's a bit more dressy, the crew neck, isn't it? They had hoodies available too, but I like a crew neck myself. And I don't know. Because, I'm also in charge of Cheeky Leprechaun as well. So there's the branding for both available. As you'd know from the mugs, again, anyone watching this, I'm showing the mug now. On the back end of the Pop Culture Experience mug is the Cheeky Leprechaun. So there's certainly some branding I could play with between Cheeky Leprechaun and the Pop Culture Experience. Maybe a hat? I don't know. Pens? There's plenty of options of things you could do. A beanie? Coming into summer here. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. If there's something in particular you want. Stubby holder? I don't know. Are people watching this necessarily sitting there with a beer watching it? Maybe not. Might depend on the content of any given episode. So maybe some more merch coming along. Let me know what you want to see in the merch department. Anyway, back to what I was saying before. I've been watching a fair bit. I admittedly made some notes today because I've got to have something to keep me reasonably on course. I watched Borat. I watched Borat too. Now, some could say, well, why wouldn't you have somebody on to talk about Borat? That could have been a whole episode. It could have been. It was good. It was good, but it's funny with Borat, isn't it? Like, let's face it, we're at this point with Borat now where it's the character that Sacha Baron Cohen plays of Borat is so prominent and a permanent fixture in the world of, pop culture and just culture in general, I guess. Everyone is so aware of Borat on some level. Now, if my mum's not big on the comedy front. I think she'd like to think she is, but she's not. She doesn't really care much for comedy. So you could make an argument that if I put my mum, down at a park somewhere and Sacha Baron Cohen was dressed as Borat and he was, filming some stuff for a new movie, I wouldn't be shocked if mum didn't know who it was. If she just sort of went along with it and thought, this feels odd. He kind of looks familiar. Like if he was in the Mankini, sure, she might go, okay, the ridiculousness of what I'm watching is sparking a memory that this is something. But if he's dressed in just his suit, I wouldn't be shocked if somebody said to me, your mum just had no idea that it was Borat and really bought into it. Now, I say this because watching Borat 2, you kind of sit there and you're like, surely all these people that he's poking fun at are aware that this is Borat, and one, are either going along for the joke, or two, hired or in on it. They're actors. And to a large degree, I think that's how watching Borat came off to me. I don't know if it was my own issue. Like, is it my problem that I'm sitting there actively trying to work out, how did they make this? Is that a paid actor, that person, instead of a real plastic surgeon that they're trying to present? Is this babysitter of Borat's daughter, is that a paid actor, or is that somebody that knows, oh, this is Borat, but I want to be famous, so I'm just going to get in on this and go along to be in the movie and just play dumb? Because with the first Borat and some of Sacha Baron Cohen's other movies, there's a distinct difference in them in that you can tell people actively didn't know for the first Borat who the hell Borat was, or even a lot of people who Sacha Baron Cohen was. I mean, Borat is largely what made him incredibly famous. Yeah, sure, Ali G and all those other things, but on a global scale and sort of a general scale, everyone at that point in time had an understanding of who Borat is and what it was. Now, whether over time that memory's faded in some people's mind, well, that's open to debate, I guess. But I don't know. For me, I was watching it, I'm like, this. I'm struggling to be totally invested in the movie because I'm too busy going, well, I feel like that was fake, that setup. It had to be fake. Or better yet, that was so outlandish and outrageous that couldn't have been real. Couldn't have possibly been real. Nobody would be that dumb to expose themselves that way to what is clearly Sacha Baron Cohen. It's just a weird thing. I'm very aware that also may not be the case. I mean, I've since read a story for anyone that hasn't seen it, there might be a couple of spoilers here, so you might want to just turn off or skip forward. Don't turn off, ever turn off. Every view and listen counts. The babysitter that appears to look after Borat's daughter and sort of gives her guidance and whatnot on what life looks like as somebody that's going to be sold to a successful, rich white man. This babysitter was actually approached by producers who were presenting a front of being producers of a reality TV show where they follow young girls who are being trafficked for, sex and whatnot to rich Western men, I guess. And she's since come out and she's like, I feel a bit betrayed. I was, deeply concerned about this girl. And now I find out it was all a big joke and it was, at the expense of Borat too, and at the expense of her, I should say. Even though it really did feel like some of the content in the scenes with this babysitter was so ridiculous and like they were so loud. Like she interacts with Sacha Baron Cohen at one point, who if my memory serves correct, I could be wrong. You guys can let me know if I'm wrong. Was dressed as Borat at when he interacted with her. Now, that goes back to the point about my mum. Like, some people just remove that from their mind. Now, this is at risk of generalizing, as Dane had to go on me about last week on the podcast, this is a Christian woman who was found through a church in her community where she's, a very involved member. One could make the argument of, well, is somebody that is so heavily entrenched in Christian culture likely to be sitting down on a Saturday night watching Borat 1? You know what I mean? So, like, maybe she wasn't that familiar. Maybe it's just something that's so outside of her realm of existence that she's not even familiar with Borat. So I can understand that. But there is so many people that pop in and out of this movie along the way, a lot of which are, redneck Americans that are, the joke is on them. It's people from the South. They're pointing the finger at you guys are so outdated with your beliefs and your views on politics and everything, because that's the idea. The joke, while on Borat, is really on them. It's reflecting the joke back onto American society. But talking to Georgia afterwards, we watched it together, and I'm like, didn't you just kind of feel like some of them really felt like actors? And she's like, they probably were. But does that matter? Does that matter if they were actors? Like, it's a movie. I'm like, yes, but it presents as a documentary movie. Can you guys hear the birds here? Can you hear them? I need to get new mics. The mics are so sensitive. They pick up everything. I'm looking to get some new ones, but anyway, it's another story. And she's right. In that it's a movie. Why can't I just suspend disbelief? Well, the reason I can't is because it presents as a documentary, not even a mockumentary, a documentary. So, yes, the character of Borat is fake, but it's presenting in a way where it's wanting you to believe that everybody involved in this movie besides Borat is real. And they want you to come along for the ride. Now, yeah, this Borat 2 is far more, movie than and entertainment than documentary compared to, I guess, the first one, in that there are some more characters revolving around Borat himself, like the Kazakhstan Prime Minister, clearly an actor, clearly. But the larger point is valid of it is presenting as a documentary, and they're wanting you to believe that they're exposing people that are unaware that they're being exposed for the ridiculous shit they say. So, I don't know. That was what I was wrestling with it. It was what I thought when the movie was first announced. I'm like, well, how is he going to film stuff without people just knowing it's Sacha Baron Cohen as Borat, and they're just not going to give him what he needs in order to achieve what he achieved with the first movie? Am I wrong? Do people agree? Is that, again, it was entertaining. I liked it. I liked it a lot, but I just couldn't help but keep coming back to that of having that separation while I'm watching the movie just not being able to really just lose myself in it. Constantly kept getting brought back out and trying to piece together, how did they produce this? How did they work this out? How did they get these people to do what they're doing? I don't know. I laughed my ass off in points, for sure. The Rudy Giuliani stuff is just so cringeworthy and painful. Horribly painful to watch. I mean, spoilers, he willingly goes into a bedroom with a young girl. And yeah, you could make the argument, did he know that she was that young? Well, it doesn't matter. It was creepy regardless. He's in a room alone with a reporter who's clearly quite young and impressionable. And Rudy just, heads on into the bedroom. If nothing else, watch the movie for that. It's a really good movie. It's incredibly entertaining. It's hilarious. The writing's great. If you can go into it just thinking, okay, there's no physical way they're going to be able to pull off this sequel in the same real way that they did the first movie, then you're going to love it. Go in with it, I don't know, maybe go in expecting more of a mockumentary style, I guess. Because it certainly feels more along the lines of The Office, which are clearly a cast, than it does a straight documentary. But yeah, Borat 2, definitely liked it. It's a great time for it to come out. Political. There's a great Mike Pence rally scene where Sacha Baron Cohen invades dressed in a Donald Trump outfit. Fantastic. Kind of remembered it going viral from back when it all first happened, which was obviously, I don't know, start of the year, maybe. Man, good stuff. Does anyone have Stan? The streaming service, Stan? Because if you don't, I shouldn't go this hard, but I will. If you don't have Stan, get it for this documentary series. It's called The Comedy Store. Okay? And it's based on The Comedy Store in LA, which is a comedy club. And it's just fascinating. Yes, you would expect that with the I don't know, the weird and wacky and eccentric people that are often stand-up comedians in LA. So, I mean, we're talking cream of the crop comedians here. It talks about, them getting their start in this comedy club and the history of this comedy club, both good and bad, drug use, criminal activity, the dark years, the great years when it was booming and filled with agents from Hollywood coming to see the new up-and-coming talent. You got Jim Carrey, you got Robin Williams, you got Richard Pryor, you got Eddie Murphy, you've got Joe Rogan, you've got Mark Maron, you've got everyone you can ever imagine. Sarah Silverman, Annie Letterman, some great people. But it's done in this really weird way where I just want to confirm that it is just called The Comedy Store. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, it is. It's done in this really great way where it has a real blend of not only looking at the comedians, but then looking at the store at the time and the culture within the store and the competitiveness between comedians who are, everyone's competing, wanting to be noticed, wanting to get the next talk show, get the next sitcom. And it sort of looks at it in that way of through the different decades and eras and whatnot, how the Comedy Store and the comedians, their careers translated into a Hollywood life. So, in the 70s and 80s, the progression of a stand-up comedian was to try and get a talk show like The Tonight Show, which is currently hosted by Jimmy Fallon, or, well, back then there was only one. It was, Johnny Carson. My God, I can't believe that escaped me. The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. That was the big get. It wasn't about TV shows other than The Tonight Show and getting not his job as host. That was the dream, but it seemed so far-fetched. There was only one talk show in all of America, and it was Johnny Carson. One late night, anyway. It was to get a slot on Johnny Carson. So to go on and do your stand-up set on the show. And if Johnny liked you, he'd call you over and he'd sit you on the couch and you'd have a little chin wag with Johnny. And then what you'd do is you'd become a superstar overnight because so many people watch Johnny Carson. This is back in the day of, 3 TV channels. So everyone's watching. And then from there, people would become stars. They would be selling out rooms. They would be, getting movie offers. They'd be getting TV show offers. And then as time went on, it's changed and evolved. The most recent episode was so interesting. It's sort of centered around Joe Rogan and his return to the Comedy Store. So, this is episode 4, I think. And throughout these episodes, we've already seen how over time in Hollywood, things have changed as to what the progression is for these comedians in terms of what's the next step for them to get more exposure. Back in the 70s and 80s, it was The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Fast forward to 2020, it's going on the Joe Rogan Experience. So like a podcast now is the biggest and easiest and quickest way for people to get their following increased. And there's more people watching a podcast or listening to a podcast now than there was, as much as there was back when there was, 3 TV channels watching The Tonight Show. So it's been super interesting, that documentary, and it's dark too. Like some of the stories you hear about the drug use and violence and man, there's a great story about Jim Carrey bombing on stage and then going and putting himself inside a piano for the next 5 hours of the stand-up show, and then gets out at the end and goes, "I've got to go home, I've punished myself enough," and just jumps out of a piano in between comedians going up on stage, and everyone breaks out laughing. Some of the greatest minds doing work that was just off the rails in the hope of being noticed. Great stuff. Highly recommend The Comedy Store. That's been good. I've also started reading. Hang on. Sorry. I make a coffee for this podcast, but what I forget is if I'm just doing it by myself, there's no one else talking for me to have a break and sip my coffee. So it's lukewarm at best now. I've started reading the Matthew McConaughey book. Okay. All right. So you might have seen it. Greenlights is the name of the book. McConaughey's out. He's pumping it up. He's trying to get people to go out, buy it. I bought it because I listened to 2 podcasts that Matt was on. Actually, it's a fun fact. If you read the book, you find out he hates Matt, so don't use that. McConaughey went on 2 podcasts, and it was fascinating. It was so interesting listening to him. He operates on a different level, McConaughey, and it's a level that I would like to operate on some level. Not massively, but it does, to a certain degree, I think it'd be good. It'd be good to operate on that level. He's just very relaxed, very in touch with himself. He's a bit spiritual. But yeah, the book's interesting. I'm I don't know, a quarter of the way through, and there's just some good life lessons. Some really good life lessons. So yeah, that's been good. I'm reading that. I'll let you know how that ends up. I watched On the Rocks last night, the new one from Bill Murray. Have you seen that? It's on Apple TV. It's a bit harder to get. If you don't have Apple TV, it's, you might have to be creative in how you watch it. But, it's a movie about Bill Murray plays the dad to Rashida Jones. And Rashida Jones is married to, is it Marlon Wayans? Marlon Wayans. And she's got suspicions that he's having an affair. Their marriage is a bit distant because he's so entrenched in work. So it follows that. And Bill Murray is obviously playing her dad. And so he sort of steps up to the plate. He's a distant dad, though. Like, he also stuffed up his own marriage. And so he's sort of projecting his own shit on her in terms of he's probably up to no good. So, like, I'm speaking from experience. So let's get to the bottom of this. And I watched it last night, and it was actually good. Bill Murray is a freaking national treasure. National treasure. Recommend it if you can get your hands on it. It's set in New York. It's pretty much Rashida Jones and Bill Murray driving around New York, investigating how dodgy her husband really is. So recommend that. Recommend On the Rocks. But let's get into a bit of news. These podcasts by myself, they can't go on forever. There has to be an end in sight. They can't just be, can't be crazy. Can't expect you to listen to me for too long. Let's just punch through some news. All right, let's punch through some news. I've got it written down here. What have I got? Static Shock. You wouldn't be familiar with Static Shock. A lot of you wouldn't anyway. So Static Shock is being produced. It's a comic book and it's being produced into a film. And it was from Millennium Comics. I want to say Millennium. Oh, hang on, I'll confirm that because it was from a comic company, Static Shock. So in the 90s, there was pushback from a certain amount of artists of African American descent or Asian and sort of artists coming together saying, look, there's not a lot of representation of superheroes other than just white superheroes. It's very whitewashed. And so they were like, you know what? We're going to start our own label of comics, which is centered around, characters of different backgrounds, Asian, Mexican, African American, all these different characters. Now, God, what is it called? Static Shock. Here it is. Milestone Media. So Milestone Media was the company that went out and created this. Well, they created Milestone Media, and within that, Static Shock was one of the comics they produced, along with a bunch of others. And it was around for, they had a good 5-year run or something. But then over time, they sort of lost steam a little bit. Lost a bit of steam, and then they went on to be purchased by DC, and DC sort of absorbed their whole comic and character range, I guess. And since then, it's laid pretty dormant. But I mean, Static Shock was based around a young African-American teenager with superpowers, and you kind of you look at it and you're like, we live in a world where Miles Morales has had a very successful movie as the lead as Spider-Man. DC are probably like, what have we got in the canon? Have we got something that fits that mold? A teenage African-American, same as Miles Morales. Miles Morales Latino, maybe. Could be wrong there. Hopefully it didn't offend anyone there, but, I'm aware that, you understand the point. Not the classic, just typical white character. It's overdone. So DC probably like, okay, let's get our hands on, what do we got? Oh, Static Shock. That'd be good. All right, let's get someone to produce it. Anyone interested? Guess who is? Michael B. Jordan. So you'd know him, Killmonger from Black Panther. So he's put his hand up and he's like, I'll produce. And let's be honest, he'll probably show up in it in some way. Probably can't play the main character. It's a bit old, but nonetheless, his production company is going to produce it, and he's going to be on as executive producer. So, if you're aware of Static Shock, great. If you like a bit more diversity in your comic book characters, check out Static Shock. There's apparently some really good issues. I'm not overly familiar myself, but noteworthy news nonetheless. What else have we got? Joe Manganiello? Joe Manganiello? How do we feel about pronouncing his name? I'm never quite sure, to be honest. Never quite sure. But, you know him, Magic Mike. He was in that. He was Deathstroke in Justice League. Well, at the end of Justice League. That's it. But he's saddled up for Justice League reshoots. Is everyone aware that there is Justice League reshoots happening? Is everyone aware that's a thing? Yeah? So Zack Snyder's obviously doing his version, the Snyder Cut of Justice League, but it's turned in at this point to seeming very much like it's a new movie altogether. Well, it's going to be a 4-part series, and yes, there's going to have to be reworkings to turn it into a format that is acceptable in a 4-part series. But that doesn't change the fact that this is now starting to sound like a totally different movie than what Snyder even envisioned at any point. Like, he's now bringing back Joe as Deathstroke, which I honestly thought was a Joss Whedon part. Like, that was something Joss Whedon had included at the end, was Deathstroke and all that. I could be wrong. That end credit scene from the actual the version of Justice League we got, where Deathstroke turns up, gets on the boat with Lex, and they start plotting a plan to join forces and whatnot. I thought that was Joss. Maybe I'm wrong, but my point, nonetheless, is Snyder is getting a lot at the moment. This is a guy that's been able to bring back Affleck, Gal Gadot. Not sure if Jason Momoa is coming back or not. Maybe not required. But Ezra Miller, Henry Cavill, they're all returning as we speak to the set to film new content for Justice League. They're not just pickups now. This is now becoming very much a different version of what he'd ever intended. So I'm freaking super excited by this, because you would like to think that with all the time that Snyder's had between all these movies and sitting back and reading the negative reviews and what people loved, what they didn't, what people were excited to see in his version, what they'd hoped might be in his version, he could sit back and really flesh out the perfect movie or, multi-part series now. Am I confident that'll happen? Probably not. But I reckon it'll be bloody good nonetheless. And also, this is what I mean though. Like, this is the extent where this movie has apparently changed so much from what was originally intended that you can't not sit here and go, oh, he's just making largely a different movie now. Or a better movie than what he'd ever intended to. Apparently, he's actively approached Ryan Reynolds to reprise the role of Green Lantern. Now, that was never spoken about. Okay, we can all confirm everything we've heard about what the Snyder version of Justice League originally was years ago now. That was never part of that. No way. We would have known, and even once it all leaked about what Snyder's was going to be, why it was so good, that was never spoken about. Now, apparently Warner Brothers like, nah, leave that alone. We don't need that shit back in our life. But still, my main point here is just how different this movie sounds like it's going to be. Crazy different. Regardless, if Ryan Reynolds turns up or not, Snyder is definitely making a different Justice League to what he had ever intended. He's gone away and really fleshed out and honed in on a different version of this movie. So if you hated the original Justice League that came out, at the very least, you're going to have a totally different movie this time around. So yeah, you can look forward to that. What else have we got? Did anyone watch The Boys in the end? Did you end up watching it on Amazon Prime? If you haven't watched it, for the love of God, go watch it. You don't have to be a superhero fan. It's not what it's genre. Absolutely, it fits into this show because there are superheroes. They're presented as superheroes, but they're just chemically enhanced humans. Which, there are superheroes that do fit that mold. But anyway, I won't get too far into The Boys. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. But what's his name? Oh my God, come on, bro. Karl Urban. I think it's just Urban. Plays one of the mains. Oh my God, how's the preparation on me? Seriously. The Boys. It's going to shit me when I find out what his character name is. Billy Butcher. My God, that annoys me that I can't remember that. I'm so bad with character names. It's beyond a joke. Plays Billy Butcher in The Boys. He's got the beard. You'd know him. Black hair. Wears a trench coat. You've probably seen it around. There's a bit of a groundswell about him playing Wolverine, the new Wolverine. I'd be on board. That's one of the things I've seen this week where I'm like, hey, that's not bad. That's not bad. And if we've seen anything, it's that studios do kind of pay attention to that. What do they want to see? What is it? Yeah, could do that. So, geez, for all we know, it could be a discussion that's being had at the moment. Karl Urban as Wolverine. I'd be down for that. I had a debate with somebody the other day, actually, going a bit off topic, talking about Wolverine and looking at Spider-Man, right? So there was somebody talking to me about how Spider-Man... Oh, maybe it was Doctor Strange they were talking about, when Doctor Strange is passing through the multiverse of madness and coming across these different characters, and apparently that's where we might first see, Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man or whatever, all these old versions of Marvel characters or previously played versions of Marvel characters that they're going to bring back into the fold. And we were talking about this, and it was all great, very exciting. And then somebody goes, yeah, and then that's where you could introduce, I can't even remember who they were rumoring to be in consideration for Wolverine at that point. But as Wolverine at this scene here, and I was like, well, hang on. Is that something that's being considered? And they're like, well, Hugh Jackman's not coming back, so yeah. And I'm like, well, okay. I've got a problem with that. If what we're doing is creating this Doctor Strange multiverse of madness to be this, oh my God, this is interconnecting now all of the other versions of Marvel movies we've seen in the past, that's fine, but you need Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. If you're determined to have Wolverine in there, you can't have Tobey Maguire back as Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield back as Spider-Man or, God, let's say they throw another version of Incredible Hulk in there or... I don't know, you get the point. That's the direction they're going with all this. You can't have these people popping up and then suddenly, hey, and there's Wolverine. Oh, wait. Oh, hang on, that's not Hugh Jackman. What's that version of Wolverine? Are we meant to have we seen him somewhere before? Are we meant to know this one like we know Tobey Maguire? And see what I mean? It takes you out of it straight away. So I don't think you could do that. I think if they're going to put Wolverine in Multiverse of Madness, like has been rumoured, I think you need to have Hugh Jackman. If you don't have Hugh Jackman, don't do it. Don't make that the moment you bring him in. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm too nitpicky. Maybe I'm too particular about these things lining up. Maybe it doesn't matter that much, but to me it matters. If that's what your whole premise is we're bringing it all together, you need to have it. So that every character is played by the original actor, because otherwise it's just going to be confusing. Again, could just be me. Anyway, off that, Christian Bale has landed in Australia. Did you see this? He's here. Up in, where are they filming that? Gold Coast area, I think. There's the big movie studio up on the Gold Coast. Justin's uncle works up there. Justin from the podcast. I think it's up there. Yeah, so Christian Bale's here, which is weird because apparently he's here for Thor, Love and Thunder. Apparently that doesn't start filming till next year, and he's here for pre-production. So still rumours about who he might be playing. Apparently it's the lead villain, but we don't really know at this point. A lot of speculation out there. But I was surprised to see him here, but it's, I don't know, there's something about big name actors being here that, I don't know, it's a warm feeling, isn't it? It's kind of just like, oh, they're here. Hanks is here. He's up there filming Elvis. Natalie Portman's here. I love Natalie Portman, just quietly. Does anyone else like Natalie Portman? Big fan. Big fan. Both, very good actress, but also, I've got a crush on her. I don't know. My girlfriend knows that. Georgia knows. Yeah, so, I don't know. I found that noteworthy to put in there. Christian Bale has arrived here. Did you see that there's also rumours? I don't know if I've spoken about this. They're kind of now saying, oh, it's looking like Christian Bale will come back and play Batman in the Flash movie. Marvel and DC just pulling them out and just being measuring each other's and being who's got the bigger, here's all the Batmans, here's all the Spider-Mans. It's very much a competition. If they pull off Christian Bale back as Batman and really give the middle finger to Marvel going, hey, you got Christian Bale, guess what? He was ours first, bitch. It certainly feels like a trump card, doesn't it? I mean, Keaton's huge. Keaton back as Batman is massive. But a lot of people would say, well, Tobey Maguire back as Spider-Man that's the equivalent. Keaton was the first on-screen Batman, and Tobey Maguire was the first on-screen Spider-Man. And, that was 20 years ago as well. Keaton was, 40, 35. What are we? Oh, yeah, 30-ish. Yeah, I don't know. I agree. But to bring in Bale, that would be freaking huge. Apparently, the only thing holding that up is Christopher Nolan. So, kind of feel like I might have spoken about this on the podcast. Apologies if I have. But, yeah, could get Bale back as Batman as long as Nolan isn't a little bitch about it. But we'll find out. What else have I got? Yeah, okay. So, I think Dane and I touched around the idea of this. James Bond. They've had this in the can since early this year. They're wanting to put it out. And now it's just, especially in America, AMC, those sort of things, as we spoke about on last week's episode, cinemas are starting to shut. So it's looking real grim for distribution of movies in cinemas and the whole idea of a box office in general. So MGM are starting to shop around James Bond, or at least they're trying to. But the asking price is apparently too much. So they've gone out there and they've gone, look, 800 mil, we'll call it even, put it on your streaming service, all good. And everyone's sort of like, well, shit, it's a lot. Like, we're not going to pay that. Apple were the only one that came closest, Apple TV, which is what I watched on the rocks. So they've got some original content going on, but this wouldn't be original. They've come out and said, look, $450, that's it. That's the best we can do. Netflix wasn't even close to that. And so, Apple TV, just over half of what the reported asking price was for James Bond. Apple probably in a good position to end up getting it, I reckon. Unless they just put it up on demand where you got to pay each time you watch it. I mean, hell, give it to Disney. I don't think you would, but you could because they've got that ability. But yeah, I guess Apple could end up getting it, and it becomes one of those, even if it's not put on for free streaming, it could be put on for pay as you go, so you might have to pay $20 for it. It certainly feels like James Bond is heading down the path of it's going to be on streaming. I think they're coming to terms with the fact of this isn't going to be able to hold off until cinemas reopen, whenever that might be. So let's get it on streaming. So keep an eye out for more news on James Bond. You might be able to watch it sooner than what you think. Hopefully, anyway. And the last little tidbit here. Anyone an Addams Family fan? The Addams Family. Did you watch maybe the original movies back in the day? I used to watch them as a kid. Both scary and funny. Kind of kept you intrigued. You weren't sure how to feel. Or maybe you watched the animated film that came out last year, which there's actually a sequel in the works for at the moment. Addams Family's been around for so long. So many different versions of it, but it's getting a new live-action TV version. Apparently, maybe for Netflix, they're in the box seat to land it at the moment. But wait, so you're probably like, yeah, I don't really care. You might care a little bit more in a second. Tim Burton is on board to produce and likely direct the whole series. So he's on board as the sort of the head creator of the whole thing. It seems to be the Burton project. That'll be what it'll be marketed as. And don't you just sit there now and go, oh shit, that totally makes sense for Tim Burton to do Addams Family. That totally fits in his world. Think about all the weird, creepy shit Tim Burton's done in the past. Even the amount of family content that he's done in the past. Certainly within his wheelhouse to pull off an Addams Family live-action TV show. I saw it. At first I was like, and then as I read on, I was like, no, actually, you know what? I would probably watch it. I would give it a go. Because at the very least, because it's Tim Burton, it's going to be really high budget. So it's going to be that real high production value. It's going to look beautiful. It's probably going to be weird and deep and sort of have more layers to it than what an Addams Family TV show may have in the past. But yeah. One other thing on that, if you follow me on social media, you would have seen I posted Mark Bernardin, who is a pop culture commentator, I guess you would call him, as well as a screenwriter. He posted a great screen grab of one of the original Addams Family movie scripts. And it's notes by the writer of the script, so that those that are the director and the actors that are reading and trying to create it on screen can understand where the writer was sort of at mentally when writing these characters. I'm going to actually read it out for you because I liked it so much I put it on my own Instagram story. I thought it was that funny. But where is he? Mark. There he is. So, one, I didn't know that you could write like this in a script. I thought it all just had to be very much about the story and you move on. But here's a little screen grab from one of the original the Addams Family scripts. Okay, so for those that don't know what a script looks like, it's sort of character name and then some dialogue, character name, dialogue, and then there'll be a bigger blurb about like some screen direction. So what are the characters doing in this moment? Where are they situated? That sort of a thing. So character talk, which is Matisha, Gomez, and then Gomez talks. I could really skip some of this. Essentially, there's a bit of back and forth between the characters, and then it goes into some screen direction and so a note from the author. So, Gomez quickly moves to her bedside. Brackets. Writer's note. We should get the sense, as much as humanly possible, that all this couple does is fuck each other. Sorry for the language here, people. Their only want on this earth is to fuck, and they do. I understand this is intended to be a kids' movie, but I cannot stress this enough and the importance of it. That those two consistently teaming with frankly demonic levels of horniness for one another. You can understand, this is hard to read. If you cannot agree on this, I will walk. But you should know I already spent a lot of money. How good's that? A writer being like, look, you've already paid me and I've spent all the money, so you can't get it back, but I will walk off this job if you don't make it clear that these people want to fuck each other's brains out the whole time. Now go back, even if you just YouTube a little bit. Sorry for my poor reading of that. I was scrolling across as hard. Not an idiot. Go back on YouTube and watch some scene snippets of those Addams Family movies, especially between Gomez and Morticia. And you see, like, Gomez is, like, licking her hands and kissing her fingers and, like, kissing her neck. And it's a kid's movie. You actually forget that. But I love it. I love that there was such commitment to making that come across and making it work, even in a kid's movie. So that was a bit of fun from me, I thought. Oh, computer's locked. There we go. Oh, that's it anyway. That's all I had. It gets loose, doesn't it, when I do these by myself? It gets very loose, very loose. Still going roughly 45 minutes. So we'll wrap it up there. Look, hopefully you don't mind this format on occasion. It's just on occasion. We're pressing towards 50 episodes now, so there's going to be some more guests coming up. I had fun. I didn't drink half of my coffee. That's gone cold. It's a waste. Mental note in the future, just have water in the cup. Again, just putting the cups out there as an option for maybe a Christmas present. Wouldn't that be a fun Christmas present? Got you a pop culture experience mug, eh? Hey, thanks, Santa. I don't know if you're that way inclined. If you have any merch ideas, if you want to see something, if you want to see the logo on some particular apparel item or something, let me know. I'm open to ideas here. It's all good stuff. If you've watched anything you want to recommend, message me. Let the podcast know. I can either, take on board the recommendation for myself or maybe even push it on here. Come on and just say, hey, Darcy reckons you should watch this. You get the idea. Little shout out. Other than that, guys, I'm going to leave it there. You can head to the socials. You can follow my socials, Dan O'Kelly _ on Instagram and Twitter. Should be the same. I think they are the same. You can also follow the Pop Culture Experience socials. So the PCE pod on Instagram and Twitter. And you can hit up the Facebook page. The Pop Culture Experience. Get on it. Share, like, do whatever you got to do. Same goes for the podcast. Listen to it. Download it. Subscribe to it on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, whatever else is out there that you're listening to it on. It should be there. If it's not, let me know. And you can watch. You can watch the whole podcast. Eh? You can watch the whole podcast on YouTube. So subscribe, share it around. The more people that find out about the podcast, the more listens and downloads we get, the easier it becomes to find for everybody else. So thanks for tuning in, guys. It's been another good week. I'll talk to you next week.